All right, Sistas fans, hope everybody's doing well. We're talking about the review for last night's episode, Season 3, Episode 7, entitled Protecting Myself. Kind of like what I said in the oval review I just recorded, 7 out of 10. It's not that it was a bad episode. And remember, I gave the Haves and the Have-Nots finale a 5 out of 10, so both the oval and Sistas did better from a numbers perspective on my ranking, but I just feel like because the hype of the Haves and the Have-Nots finale was, up there amongst us Tyler Perry fans, like, MCU movie is to Marvel fans, it's kind of like, watching a basic rom-com compared to the next MCU film. People are going to be talking about the MCU film more than just a rom-com. So this episode felt okay. Like, I thought that it did a decent job of establishing what's happening next week. But like I said in my theory about, who Fatima heard in Andy's bedroom, the end credits were running when it actually showed up. I was like, wait a minute, are they not doing a preview for next week because the moaning and groaning thing would be the last scene? Yeah, they did the preview, but they haven't dropped the official trailer, so I can't do that video until probably tomorrow. But in any case, before getting into the review, make sure you take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Also, hit the bell notification icon. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And with that being said, let's jump into it. I think there were 3 scenes between Sabrina and Maurice, and I'll actually go ahead and just talk about all of those together because, well, it makes sense. So Jacoby had already left, and Sabrina can't believe anything. Well, she can't believe any of this is happening. The fact that he'd make those accusations against her. This was essentially Maurice and Sabrina's story for the episode. Basically, without saying it out loud, it was kind of like their stance, their reaction to the Me Too Time's Up kind of thing, where false allegations can actually cause a lot of harm, even if you're completely innocent. Especially the fact that she is a supervisor, manager, dealing with one of her subordinates. And, Maurice was actually giving some wise advice in the episode. Yeah, he tried to throw in some jokes like, what, he was all up in you and everything. He's like, no, Maurice, this isn't the time for jokes. So him and Danny were kind of on the same wavelength this episode where they were giving some sound advice. Now, I don't know about the fighting fire with fire. It's like, look, when they go low, you got to dig a tunnel. So revenge, say that he raped you. And Sabrina's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that evil. I'm not that kind of person. So yeah, I don't think that's a good idea either. I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like Sabrina, every time and I'm not blaming Maurice, but more often than not, anytime she follows his advice, it usually makes things a hell of a lot worse than when she was considering what her next move would be. From the Well, no, actually, a lot of these things were ideas that she got from Danny, like the Calvin drug test and whatnot. Well, basically just the thought of, him being on drugs. So it's difficult to tell who's the worst influence on the other person, Sabrina or Maurice. But then later on in the episode, when it's closing time, Sabrina's still thinking about it. And, Maurice's like, girl, you haven't done anything all day. You've just been moping around here. I mean, she's still on the situation where, look, I'm not going to stoop that low and say it was rape. And, it's just surprising how people can make these allegations even if they weren't true. It's like, he's the one that came on to me. Well, didn't you call him over there? And it's always like the he said, she said kind of thing. And then I think Maurice says, like my drag mother said in the Bible, that was her Bible, the truth according to me. And even though Sabrina said, like, look, I'm about to go to happy hour with the girls later tonight, Maurice's like, nope, we're going to go get some drinks right now. So they leave because the bank is closed. But somebody said something on Facebook that had me rolling. Why they always do that outside shot of the bank with all those cars, but there's never anybody inside? That had me dying. That was too funny. All right, so they're at the gay club, and Sabrina, Maurice, and the bartender are talking about the situation where Maurice let Q go. And Sabrina's like, wait, he committed a crime. Why'd you let him go? Because he reminded me of myself. I learned more about him. He was 14 when he got kicked out, and that same thing happened to me. And Sabrina's like, well, do you even talk to your mother? No, that Bible-toting woman? Nope. Well, I just moved on. So from there, he just goes for a dance, and he says, I'm 22 and a half. He's like 22 and a half. That's how young I am. So that was a pretty funny scene. So Maurice was pretty damn good in the episode. I actually like Maurice in this episode a lot. So let me go ahead and let's see, go back towards the beginning. Fatima is asked by Andy to cancel the lunch because of the fact that a lot's happening at work. Basically, Robin wants to see her sooner than expected. And the fact that, okay, we're going to reschedule. Can you ask them if they can do happy hour? And Fatima is obviously written to be thirsty for Robin. I know some people are debating whether or not they like to see Fatima like this. And is Robin really that fine? I'm a guy, so I really have no thoughts on that. But basically, some people don't like it. But I mean, this is well within Fatima's character, so I don't see what's wrong with that. She calls Danny first, and she agrees to the happy hour. And then she kind of rushes Fatima off the phone and says, Heffa. I don't know if she was referring to Andy or Fatima, but I'm more inclined to say that Danny was calling Fatima a Heffa. Probably, due to the whole Karen thing, which I feel is really messed up. So then we go over to Andy, who has a sit down, or more of a she stands up while Robin sits down, and his client is willing to settle. And while Andy's like, okay, fine, let's go to my office to work things out. Oh no, here's the thing. It has to be done over dinner. And it's like, well, what? It wouldn't be a problem if I was a woman attorney, would it? Well, no, generally, in the UK, things are done differently than how they are in the United States. But in the United States, we like to handle business more directly in the office. So after a little back and forth, she agrees to 1 hour as a friend, a dinner at 8 p.m. So from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it's going to be at the Carlisle restaurant. Remember my theory that perhaps Zach goes to the Carlisle Hotel to confront Tony, who gave him the advice about the stock information? What if he goes there, Andy's there on that date, and then sees Zach there and gets the wrong idea? Remember how I said that? It might actually happen. So after Robin leaves, Fatima comes to the conference room and, just looking Robin down the hallway as he leaves. And, hey, I talked to Andy and they said they're good with the happy hour. Fatima, yes, I'm Andy. Oh, I called Danny. But essentially from there, she calls out, Andy for having hard nipples. Oh, wait, yeah, tell maintenance to fix the temperature in here. So, they agreed to have dinner. And, Hayden actually stops into Fatima's office, and Fatima kind of shoos him away because she ain't trying to hear none of that. So he goes back to his office and gets Dion, which I believe is the same person who lives near Fatima's apartment, and that was the one that planted the drugs in Zach's truck. So basically Dion called Zach and said, hey, we're sorry, we have too many guys on the Chainbreaker crew, and we won't have any new projects for you for foreseeable future. And he's ticked off because remember, he just lost everything but $100 in the stock market. So now he doesn't even have a solid income coming outside of the airport. And this goes back to why Zach, and look, based on synopsis, it looks like things will pick up for him, but this is why he should have invested in his own place instead of investing all the money into the stock, maybe no more than like a few $1,000s. But no, while he's feeling down and out, Danny comes over, nosy as hell about some money, and while it seems like she's being nosy because remember, she knew about the whole bank account information stuff from Sabrina, not the exact amount of money, not the fact that he had that much money, but the fact he was opening bank accounts. So Zach was in no mood for her nosy attitude, but then she tried to flip it on him like, hey, don't you generalize all black women this and that because you say what you like a black woman will throw something in your face. And I mean, from Zach's experience, that's actually true. But they have their back and forth, and the thing about it is, she says, I'll buy you lunch. There'll be no jokes. And, he goes into detail about the fact that I came to some legit money due to chain breakers and I lost in the stock market. Now they gave me a call and said I can't get any more jobs on the house. So every time I try to do better, everything just blows up in my face, even when I do things the right way. But then, like Maurice, Danny does give some sound compliments. Like, the thing I admire about you is the fact that you keep trying no matter what, you don't give up. And he's like, wait a minute, Danny, what are you even doing here today? You're supposed to be off. Well, yeah, I just came in to work some extra hours, and let me go, I'll buy you half a sandwich. That was actually pretty funny. But basically, I was like, wait a minute, she must be stalling. It's like she must not want to be at home because Preston's there. So we go over to Andy, who's telling Fatima about the dinner and the fact that even though Fatima thinks it's a bad idea, she's not going to tell Gary about it. So, actually, hang on a second. I think I skipped something in my notes. Oh, no, I didn't. All right, so since they couldn't do lunch together, because originally Andy's like, hey, Fatima, I know we said we do lunch, but I got to talk to the girls. But since she can't do lunch with the girls, she has a brief sit down with Fatima about what's going on. And then she mentions Zach, but I know you don't want to hear about it. Look, I don't want to even talk about it much because it'll be awkward for you and then your girl. And Andy's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just let me, I'll deal with the awkwardness. You could talk to me about anything. So at the core, she talks about the amazing night she had, the fact that Zach showed up begging her to let him come over, and then the fact that, he turned it out. And Fatima could barely contain herself while she was talking about the amazing night she had. So Andy actually gives some advice like, why don't you just say you like him? Because like, you like Zach, don't you? Oh, girl, no, I don't. Look, you're literally shaking talking about him. So at the end of the conversation, she's like, you should just tell Zach how you feel. And, be on guard. That's the thing. Fatima's really on guard. But, Andy's like, well, if you like him, tell him. Think about Gary. Like, I knew he was married. I told myself not to fall for him. But before I knew it, he had my heart in his hands. So some people were like, who does Andy think she is to give advice about men, to her girl? But it wasn't like she was being judgmental. She was just, she was giving sincere advice, and she even said, well, yeah, even I knew when something was wrong about Gary being married, but I still went after him anyway. So it's just one of those situations where I don't feel Andy interjected advice that wasn't requested. And it wasn't like Fatima was trying to flip things on her, but she wasn't afraid to say, well, hey, you mentioned this thing about Zach, but what about you and Gary? And the thing about it is, hang on a second. Oh, yeah, the dinner. I'm sorry, I couldn't read my own writing there for a second. So Fatima's strategy is, okay, you got that dinner with Robin. I'll make sure I schedule a table for you at the back of the restaurant. Oh, no, Andy Bars doesn't do the back. No, you're doing the back table, for strategy just in case Gary's watching. Or, Gary finds out somehow. So she even goes on to kind of vouch. She's like, Robin is rich, single, attractive. And what does she say? Rich and single means love. Equals love. And Fatima suggested Andy look at him. But, she kind of gets snippy. Not in a mean way. It's like, I'm happy with Gary. It's like, I feel like Andy is overly compensating. She's trying to convince everybody that her and Gary are happy together. But I feel like she's having an even harder time convincing herself that her and Gary are a good fit, because like I said in another video, God keeps having these great looking and successful men pop up, but Andy just refuses to let Gary go despite all the flaws. So she asked Fatima to go to her place to get the outfit for the dinner. It's like, oh, you want to change your outfit? I see what's going on. No, it's just a dinner, and Andy's going to call Gary to say I'll be late. So she calls Gary to say I'll be home by 10, and he's kind of he's not rude, but kind of passive and distant. He's just saying, hey, yeah, work was okay, therapy, that took a lot out of me. She's going to call later for a second session over the phone. We don't have to talk about it, and you'll be here by 10. Okay, you'll be here by 10. So, that was kind of strange. So Zach thanks Danny for the dinner, and they're talking for a little bit. And, while he's about to, figure out what his next move is going to be, Danny's like, fine, you want to talk some more? But again, it's just a stall because she doesn't want to be at home. And then Zach is like, wait, so you just want space, don't you? Yeah, why don't you just tell Preston that? Well, he's sensitive and simple, And it's like, well, Danny, you're the one who's simple, because if you just simply tell Preston what the situation is, that would avoid a lot of unnecessary drama, which is exactly what happens with Sabrina. Instead of talking with Calvin about certain things, you'll talk to everybody else and then come up with these elaborate schemes, which will end up hurting feelings. So it's really ridiculous. All right, so from there, she doesn't want to hurt him, and then he gets a call on his phone. Oh, that Fatima's calling. It's HR. But as soon as Danny leaves, it's Fatima. She apologizes for, and I quote, being a bitch earlier in the day. Zach's face when he's like, he didn't say it out loud to the phone. It's like, yeah, you're right about that. But he's like, no, it's cool. And basically, it's like, hey, I want to talk to you. And it's like, Zach's like, hey, I'm not in a good mood right now. It's basically a lot going on. Every time I try to do better, things don't work out, money, and then chain breakers. And then he tells her, I don't think he said Dion was the one who called him, but he said a dude from Chain Breakers called and said they don't have any more assignments for me, even though I thought it was at the top of the list. And basically from there, Fatima's like, look, I'll look into it, because, Zach is like, is that dude doing this? Hayden. And, Fatima reassures him like, look, I had nothing to do with that. Don't think that I'm the one messing you up, because Zach says, like, that's the thing. It's like, you want me to come over at 8:30, but I don't want to get involved because, you know what, I messed around with you, and then Hayden started coming after me, and then I don't want to be in a situation where a woman sets me up. But if I don't do what she wants me to do, she'll take it away. So I can see Zach's plight here, but thankfully things didn't get too heated over the phone, because when Fatima kind of spoke up, it's like, see, look, you're acting like you were this morning. So she said, look, Zach, I'm not asking, I'm telling you, be at 8:30 my place tonight. So, it was actually a good scene. I like to see these two talking, and the fact that Fatima addressed why she acted the way she acted in the last episode. So she calls Hayden and puts on a sweet act saying, hey, I'm sorry about how I acted earlier today at work. I want to work things out between us. Come to my place at 8:30 tonight. Okay, cool. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, snap. So Karen is finishing up her last client of the night. Pam walks over as they get ready to close shop. And, Karen's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to happy hour. And Pam's like, you going to go out like that? Shouldn't you change or freshen up? Don't worry about me. And next thing you know, a dude's knocking on the door, slides the letter under there, and somebody's suing Karen. And it's like, well, who the hell could it be? Pam leaves, and then all we hear Karen say is, damn, Andy. And I didn't put two and two together. I know a lot of people theorized it could have been like Gary about the wedding or something along those lines. Or it could have been Aaron, his ex's family. But we find out in the preview who actually is the one responsible. So, couple scenes here. Danny is dressed and ready to go to girls' night, and I guess we were all wrong, because we theorized that Danny put on that outfit to go meet with Preston's mom, but nope, this is just a random outfit she's wearing. Okay. And she just kind of is as dismissive and passive with Preston as Gary was with Andy early on the phone, and to an extent Zach with Fatima, and Fatima was to Hayden. It's like, it was like, well, hey, how was your day? Usually you ask how my day was and we talk, and aren't you going to stay for dinner? And Danny's just effing this up. She could easily say, hey, I'm going out with the girls. And I mean, Danny was just like, I hate to say it, she was acting like a guy. I mean, a guy who just doesn't give a shit about his girl. Just basically, she comes in, well, hey, how are you? Aren't you going to kiss me, hug me? No, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm doing this. That was messed up. So Danny just says, oh, you talking about the cows and this and that. You say the same thing. And then she tried to flip it on Preston like, well, I guess you're right. I do just say the same thing every day. So have a fun time then. I wouldn't be surprised if Preston's gone by the time she gets back. Seriously, that was messed up. So then the final scene, we got Fatima over at Andy's place getting her clothes and everything. And she hears Gary moaning and groaning. And then we hear a woman breathing really hard. And to be honest, this woman sounded like she was either on the phone or TV porn. So I don't think there was a woman in the room. It sounded like this woman was on a device. So with that being said, guys, that's all I have for this particular episode. It certainly was interesting. But let me know if you agree with my score of a 7 out of 10. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, if you would like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.